Having an exceptional relationship with your spouse affects every single aspect of your life and is crucial for experiencing your dream life together. I'm Rob Murgatroyd.
And I'm Kim Murgatroyd. Listen in on our honest, filter-free conversations as we navigate life and business together without killing each other.
You'll learn by osmosis how to transform the friction you feel in your relationship into a purposeful foundation that will allow you to grow together.
Welcome to the Friday Podcast.
Kimberly, Panic at the Disco. How are you?
I am just ducky.
Did you listen to Panic at the Disco? There's two bands that I love the names of. The first is Panic at the Disco, and the second one is Exit Through the Gift Shop. You never heard of either of those bands, have you?
I've heard of Panic at the Disco, but I actually thought that was a song.
No, I think it's a band. Do you like indie bands? I don't. I don't like indie movies, and I don't like indie bands. I've never watched an indie movie that I went, oh, this is great. I always feel like it's an artist that's suffering for his art, and I'm supposed to recognize his torture in his low-budget film.
You know what? It's really funny because yesterday a girl came on my TikTok. It was like POV when you're a thrifter and you walk into Zara, and she was like videoing herself vomiting. And I was just like, okay, please. My friend a year ago, Felicity, she's like, let's go. There's this massive thrift market and you literally put stuff in a bag and then they weigh it. And we walked in and it smelled like mothballs and it was just like not my jam. I'm looking at her like, this is what we wanted to do today. She didn't like it either. But there's a difference between thrifting some shit and really nice vintage secondhand stores here in Florence that have beautiful, elegant, nice clothing that if I knew what to do with it, because I'm not a fashion girl, but I think you could find some shit. But anyway, not what we're talking about today.
Before we move on to the subject du jour, do you know anybody that is not British with the name Felicity?
Felicity?
Do you know anybody? Do you have a friend?
I don't have any Felicities in my life.
I don't either. The only Felicity I have is pronounced Felicity.
Felicity?
And many of the sentences start with
Felicity?
No.
You know what?
You know what? That's not why we're here today, as much as we adore Felicity. We are here to talk about...
I'm going to have to send this to her.
We're here to talk about our new series, which is the Ultimate Vision series. And the series is going to take you all the way through the end of this year. Spoiler alert, if any of this content you like and you're like, I wish there was a course on this, we will put a link in the show notes for our Ultimate Vision course for couple.
Let me just say this out of the gate. So this is going to be a 5-part series. We're going to walk you through creating a vision for your life. And if you're a couple, one of the questions we get is how do you get on the same page with your spouse? And this course is all about that. But also, if you're an individual, it's the same content. It doesn't change. And you can take the couple parts of this and stick it in the back of your head for when you couple up with somebody. You'll be able to do that. But I want to tell you in advance that we are giving you a Black Friday special. It is Vision 100, the coupon Vision 100. Click the link in the show notes. Use the coupon Vision 100 for $100 off our vision course.
And we'll promote that during Black Week.
Oh my God, can we talk about that? Political correctness doesn't exist in Italy. When we first lived here, it was like around Thanksgiving. Keep in mind, Thanksgiving's an American holiday. They don't celebrate that here. But they do try to take the Black Friday concept and they call it Black Week.
But they also have White Week.
They have White Week and Black Week. Black Week is when there's a sale. White Week is when you go to the snow.
It's the funniest shit. Some things just don't translate.
But when you see Black Day, like doors, it doesn't translate.
Yeah, you got to go shopping this week. It's Black Week.
We are also not here for that today.
Before you start, I want to put this through a lens. So we're going to talk about having an ultimate vision, and we'll go back and forth because we are a couple. We know many of you are couples. Again, Kim said you don't have to be a couple. Kim and I rarely are on the same page when it comes to specific things. For example, if we're creating a sales page for something, we see things completely differently. If there's a method for how the content needs to be created, we are creating things differently. That is not to be confused with us being on the same page for what our ultimate vision is, right? We are trying to create products that are automated in a way, that are helping people in a way, that are around ideas that we're passionate about, that are going to produce income for our family, that are going to be high value for people. The ultimate vision for what we want is the same. The way in which we approach things often isn't the same. And it is a ever evolving process for us to get better at working together. So I want to make that distinction.
Also, the Ultimate Vision course, it's not some bullshit we made up. This is something that Rob and I have been in a process of developing in our own life for the better part of almost 2 decades now. And if I take us back to our very first time we sat down and we did the Tim Ferriss Dreamline, okay? So this came out of 4-Hour Workweek, this one particular thing. We're going to talk about it a bit more later and how we evolved it to what we do. But we sat down and did the Tim Ferriss Dreamline 400 years ago, and we got a glass of wine, put on music, lit a candle. We're sitting at the kitchen table. And I'm writing out what I want to have and be and do, and Rob's writing his out. And then when we were done, we compared our lists. We looked at each other's, and Rob said, I want to live in California. Mine said, I want to live in Italy. So this is how not on the same page we were, that we were on 2 different continents. You can see who won. Let's just go there. But that was the very beginning of us trying to figure out the vision. And I think that was a really good exercise, but there's so much more that has come into it for us. So during this series, we're going to walk you through our exact process of how we create a vision, because end of the year, everybody's getting ready. They want to create a vision board. They want to create, what am I dreaming of? And all of that for the next year. And we want to walk you guys through it, because we're doing it too. And this is a process that we have gone through ourselves many times. And not only have we gone through this process to create our vision, we've turned that vision into a reality time and time again with everything we've done. And so this is an exact process, okay? If you follow this process and you follow what we're telling you to do, you will build momentum towards your dream.
Listen, I'm going to say this. If you're an individual, then what we're explaining to you today is going to be pretty simple. You just have to follow the instructions. But I will say at the onset, if you are a couple, don't assume that your vision is the same. You've got to make sure that you could read what you want for the vision for your life and have the other person say, yeah, that's absolutely what I want. And very often we see it isn't. Very often a person will write a vision for themselves, which is fine. But if you don't have a vision that the two of you can read together where it's aligned, then you're going to have some challenges.
So we're going to get there. Okay. So we're going to start where everything is aligned. You're going to walk through this process together, and you're going to get into alignment. And so we're going to show you how to get into alignment. And more importantly, we're going to show you how to work together. And if you're an individual doing this, some of these rules apply to you about yourself, because sometimes we're the hardest on ourselves with what we want and how we feel. So let's first talk about why couples need an aligned vision. So the first thing in that is obvious, right? If you take what Rob and I were looking at and what we both wanted in our life, we literally wanted to live on 2 different continents. And so we had to come up with a plan on how that would work together. Imagine this. I have a vision board that says, I'm going to live in Italy. Rob has a vision board that says, I'm going to live in California. What the fuck does that mean for our life? If we're each trying to step into and manifest 2 different visions, yet we're together, we're literally like the opposite ends of a magnet pushing against each other. When we did that and we each had individual visions, individual vision boards, nothing happened. Literally nothing happened. They fell behind the cabinet. Rob put his in the shower and it peeled. And so then he went and laminated it and put it in the shower, and then it dripped water. Like, it was a disaster. Nothing ever happened. Once we got on the same page, that's when the momentum built. That's when things sped up. That's when the dates we were putting to achieve things were halved. Okay. That's when everything shifted. Your energy together is more powerful than your energy separate.
Well, I'll tell you this, clarity is momentum. If I had to have one quote on my tombstone, it would be clarity precedes momentum. Because if you're not in alignment together, where you're clear about what that looks like, not only will it not happen, if it does happen, let's say, it's going to take 10 times longer because you're peeing in the wind. You're fighting against yourself. I did a podcast interview with somebody yesterday, and he had one of those stories where he discovered his vision board that he hadn't seen for a while. And he pulled it out. I was like, oh my God, like everything came true. But then he calculated it and he looked and he's, God, my 10-year plan happened in 2, because he was so clear on what he wanted that it accelerated. That's the momentum. That's the clarity precedes momentum part.
So if you're a couple, you need clarity together to build the momentum. If you're an individual, you need clarity yourself. And what does that mean? That means, what do you really want? Not what do you think you should have by now, not what someone else in society thinks you should have. This isn't about keeping up with the Joneses. This isn't about putting the shit on the vision board that you don't really want and you just think you're shitting on yourself. You think you should. This is about determining what you really want. Let's go over a couple of rules I think that couples for sure need to have when doing this. Number one, this should be fun. Okay, so don't make this not fun. Don't bring some bullshit argument from 3 years ago into this. Don't should on each other. Well, you shouldn't want that. I shouldn't want this. Blah, blah, blah. Don't should on each other. This is the biggest thing. And God, I really need you guys to get this. And Rob, because you coach a lot of couples, I think you'll understand this. Don't judge each other's desire. Okay. If you want to play at the highest level of relationship, if you want to move momentum to your vision, you cannot judge what the other person wants. When Rob came to me mid-40s and said, I want to be a club DJ, it is very easy to go, what the heck are you talking about? You want to hang out with 20-year-olds in a nightclub till 4 a.m? Totally could have done that, but I didn't. I supported him because his dream is my dream. And consequently, my dream is his dream. And that's how you work together at the highest level in relationships. So do not judge what someone else wants.
I think it's very easy, if this is your first go around at this, really putting on paper what you want. I think particularly if you are somebody that leans cerebral, mental, intellectual in nature, you tend to want to use logic and you tend to want to use spreadsheets and go, Q1, I'm going to have this, and Q2, I'm going to have that. And in my experience, that logic doesn't create enough of the rocket fuel that you need in order to manifest what you want. There's a feeling that you have. And the feeling part is tricky because there's almost like a calling that you feel pushed, directed, nudged towards. And it's usually quiet. It's like maybe you're watching something on TV and there's a spark in something you saw and you're like, oh, that looks really cool. Maybe you're watching like some news program or something where they're interviewing somebody about something. Or maybe you're walking down the street, or maybe you're watching a movie or some conversation or something that somebody says to you. For example, she used the DJ thing. There was a moment where I was feeling empty, where I was not passionate with what I was doing in my career. And I remember we were on vacation in Ibiza and we're at this hotel where every night there was another DJ that was playing. And I saw this DJ that was like putting 3 or 4 tracks on top of each other. And there was something about it. I was like, God, that's fucking cool. How does he do that? And I don't do that with everything. I don't look at people doing archery and go, how do they do that? I look at it and go, oh, that's cool. Or that's really fascinating how he was able to get a bullseye. But there wasn't a pull for me. There wasn't like, I really want to learn this, or I want to understand this, or there was 1,000 questions that I had. And then I woke up the next morning, I was like, I wonder if I can ask my friend who runs a club in Atlanta where we were living at the time. I wonder if I can ask my friend to ask one of the DJs if he would teach me. Like, those questions that come up inside of you are questions that you don't get about everything. You get them about certain things. Those are the things that you're looking for, because that's where the rocket fuel is.
You got to listen to the nudge. And you brought that up, and that's great, because before we did our first exercise, I don't think I had ever really verbalized or put out there that I wanted to live in Italy. I think it was always living inside me since I came here when I was 16. It felt like a pipe dream. Like, oh my God, wouldn't it be so cool if, in my head, right? And then once I sat down and the filters were taking off and the garters were taking off, and I had the permission to literally tap in to my dream, and I was like, let's do it. Okay, I want to live in Italy. And it gave me the ability to do that. So the second rule that I want to mention is tapping into what you're saying is don't filter with logic your needs or your wants. Let them come out on the paper. What's the worst thing that can happen? If you have this deep nudge that you want to be a club DJ or you want to explore cooking at a greater level, it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to make shoes, whatever it is, and even if it's the most illogical, craziest thing you ever heard, write it down because that's the dream. We're building your dream life. We're building the vision for what would light you up. You can't do that by filtering yourself or worse, filtering your partner. Don't put the tamper on your partner because you think their dream is stupid. First of all, if you think their dream is stupid, then you have deeper marriage issues that need to be worked out because you're not playing at a high level relationship, and that's the truth. So practice supporting each other, even in what seemingly will be the stupidest idea ever, support each other in it.
Yeah, and I think as you're going through this process, we're trying to give you like guardrails to think about what goes into a vision, right? And so as you're thinking about this process, I think one of the things that you have to really consider is what are your values around certain things? So for example, I did this interview with a guy named John DeMartini, and he talked about values. And what he said is when you value something, you put order to it. And so I'm looking around my room. I have my sport jackets that are color-coded on wooden hooks that are aligned perfectly.
That everybody on TikTok cannot function and understand why your hangers go the wrong direction, though.
They look perfectly normal to me. You put order to it, right? And I look around at my books. I look at my morning routine for my journals, the Daily Stoic that I read every day, my gratitude journal. It's stacked in a certain way. I look at my shoes.
Your shoes are a shit show.
They're actually not.
They looks like a shit show.
I won't go into it. I'm not going to give you a tour on my shoes.
Thank you.
But they make perfect sense to me. So think about these things in your life that you are putting order to, because when you value something, you don't ask anybody. I never ask somebody, how should I order my sport jackets? How should I order my morning books? I naturally am putting order to things I'm interested in. Now let's take the opposite. The opposite is that you say, okay, I want a vision for my life, and you open up Excel and you start going, okay, I want $100,000 by the end of this year or $200,000 by the end of this year. I'm going to do this much this quarter. I'm going to do marketing. So you're logically going into something that you're not naturally doing. And this guy's argument, John DeMartini, and I think he's right, is when you truly value something and you are truly interested in something, there's evidence around you to show that you give a shit about it. If you care about being independently wealthy, then you have evidence to show that you're saving $1 a week. If you care about travel, then you have a trip booked on your calendar to travel. All of this is to say, be careful about what you're putting into a vision that you show no signs of at all that you care about this. And to Kim's earlier point, that you think this is what you should be saying.
Exactly. We have two more things we're going to talk about in this first episode of this series, and that is the vision needs to precede the vision board. So this is something that people have so backwards. And A for effort on first of the year, I want to change some things and I want to manifest some things. So I'm going to go get a stack of magazines and I'm going to get a poster board and I'm going to go back to kindergarten, cut and paste, and I'm going to create something that means something to me. And I'm going to Jeffrey Dahmer it with all the words, courage, and someone else's body and all that stuff. Okay, A for effort. However, if you are relying on magazines or whatever to create your vision and you're flipping through going, ooh, I like that kitchen, and you're putting it on your board, that's not creating a vision. The vision needs to precede the board. So although we have a vision board course, the bulk of this is not about cut and paste. You know how to do that. This is about creating the vision for your life. And no, that might take weeks sometimes to create that next vision. It's taken Rob and I 6 months. And finally, after going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and talking about it and sticking our toe in, we'll finally go, we got it. Don't rush the process. There's no law that says on January 1st, if you don't have your vision board up, it's not happening. There's no vision board police that are coming in to make sure it's done by January 1. We've created visions at random times of the year. It does not matter. So take the time to walk through the process. Now, in the rest of this, we're going to give you the exercises we walk through. We're going to give you how to create the written vision, how to create the vision board. Although I know you're thinking right now, I know how to cut and paste. That's not how you do it. We have specific rules and do's and don'ts for that, and we're going to go over it. And then we're going to end this series talking about how you actually manifest, because just putting it up in your bathroom is not going to work. So I'm going to give you a highlight of what's to come. But the biggest component of this, and the part that you have to stick your teeth into, is that the vision needs to precede the vision board. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd like to highlight that a little bit more because I think you did a really good job explaining it, but I really want to drive this home because everything is predicated on this principle, so it's worth perhaps coming at it from an additional perspective. The magazine is not used to find the vision. So like Kim said, you don't open a magazine and say, let me find my vision in here, right? And start plucking it out. And I know that it's very captivating to do that, or easier to do that, or perhaps you think it's logical to do it because you open it up and you find the Ferrari and the Robb Report magazine that you're flipping through and go, oh, this is the one I want. Or you find the body that you go, okay, this is the body I want. And then you put a little picture of your face on top of the body.
So the last thing we want to talk about is being in the stretch zone. So your comfort zone, you've heard of that, right? So you've heard of the comfort zone. That's where it's 70 degrees, no humidity for you, Rob, no bugs. It's your comfort zone, okay? The stretch zone is just a little bit outside the comfort zone. It's not the panic zone. The panic zone is when you're going way too far off the deep end. You want to go into the stretch zone when you're thinking about these concepts, this dream that you want to build, this vision for your life. So right now, if you're in a studio apartment and you're struggling in your job and you hate what you're doing, what is the stretch zone for you? What is the next vision that you would love? Maybe a job that you love, maybe a bigger apartment, maybe it's a home, whatever it is. You want to go to the stretch zone. The panic zone would be, I want to be the CEO of a company. I want to live in a mansion. It's so far outside your comfort zone that your brain calls bullshit when you hear it. You want to stretch yourself, because this is part of manifestation, is being able to step into your future. And we're going to talk about manifestation in our last of this series. But being able to manifest is about stepping into it and owning it. For example, when Rob and I created our vision for moving to California, we had a date that was a year and a half away when we created the vision. We'd sit at the kitchen table and we'd talk about the vision. We'd look at the board and we would have some conversation. We're going to go over all of this in that last episode of the series on manifestation. But we would sit there and sometimes it would provoke something. And Rob would say, I wonder what kind of wetsuit I need, because he wanted to surf. And that's a stretch for him. He wasn't a surfer. He had surfed like once or twice on vacation and he barely got up, but he wasn't saying he was going to be in a surf competition, but he was like, I wonder what kind of surf it would be. I almost said surf outfit. What did they call it? A wetsuit.
A wetsuit. What
kind of surf outfit do I need? And so he would call a surf shop in California and he would say, I'm moving to California. Again, we had no actual physical plan to move. We just had a dream. I'm moving to California, and what kind of wetsuit would you wear in the winter, the summer? And he would have this conversation. He had the ability to do that because it was in his stretch zone. He was stretching himself to be in that zone. It wasn't the panic zone. He wasn't calling up Kelly Slater and saying, when's the next Hang 10 competition? He wasn't forcing this crazy, insane thing on himself. He was stretching himself to say, I want to surf year round. How would I do that? What would I do? He was able to step into it, which is part of the manifestation process.
I think what you're looking for is something that's just outside of your reach, right? So you're looking for the thing that is not that hard, or the other one, which is like, how the hell am I going to surf with Kelly Slater? That's not going to happen. There's usually two types of people that do this, and they're usually not in the middle. It's either the one that doesn't believe in themselves at all and barely puts a goal that has any juice behind it, where they're just so sensitive to pushing themselves so hard that they want to underachieve. And it's in that underachievement, there's no excitement, juice, your heart's not pounding, trying to make it happen.
And it's something that's probably going to happen anyway.
Yeah. And then it's the other one that says, I want houses in St. Bart's. I want one in the south of France. I want a Rolls Royce. And why can't I have it all? Right. And you just can't have it all at the same time. So you've got to figure that out. And so finding that comfort zone, I think, is important.
All right. So last thing, let's talk about a couple of rules for your vision process you're going to go through. So the first rule is do the exercises we're going to go over in the next episode when you're in a good mood, when you're relaxed. Maybe it's after a meditation. Like I said, Rob and I did ours on a Saturday night. We had a great dinner. We stayed in, poured a glass of wine, lit a candle, put on some music. We were in a good mood going into this. What you don't want to do is be stressed out, jacked up, and come in and be like, I fucking hate this and I hate that and I want this. You don't want to do it when you're in this negative. This dreaming needs to happen when you're in a positive state. The second rule is to be 100% honest with yourself about what you want. Don't allow the limiting beliefs to creep in. If you are someone that suffers from tons of limiting beliefs, read The Big Leap from Gay Hendricks. It will change your life. So if you're a limiting belief guy or gal, read that book, then do this vision process, okay? Because you don't want limiting beliefs, fear of failure holding you back when you're dreaming. Rob talked about doing the next thing that's logical or underachieving, or even worse, something that's going to happen anyway. Like when I retire, you're going to retire. We know this, but let's push this up a little bit.
Yeah, because what you're working on currently right now has momentum. And if you just stopped working on it, chances are, just like if you took a ball and you threw it down the street, eventually, even if you walked away from that ball, it's going to keep rolling. There's momentum in what you're creating now. And so you don't want to just catch the tail end of that momentum. You want to have something that's going to put energy into that ball and push it even further.
The last rule is be patient. It takes time to sift through what you want. And I will tell you, there are times where Rob and I have done these exercises and then we wait a few days and we come back to these exercises that you're going to get. And I'm like, I don't really want that. And I scratch it off the list. A good way to know, by the way, if you really want something or not is if you can't remember what you put on the list and you're like, oh yeah, I said I wanted that. Yeah, you don't really want it because the things you truly want are a part of who you are. They're a part of your DNA. They roll around in the back of your head often. So if you find that you're writing things on the list that you completely forgot you wrote on the list, cross it off. Be willing to edit as needed. We've done it before where we thought we were done. We put our vision board up. We wrote it in the written vision. We had it all ready to go. And then we were like, don't really want that. And so we just pulled it off, crossed it out, and edited. This is not a thing that is forever going to be done. You're constantly editing and reevaluating based on new nudges you have. So be patient with yourself and take time. Any last words on this part?
No. And if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I want to get this thing done. If I heard this, I'd be like, okay, just tell me what I need to do. I don't want to sit here for 5 weeks and have this thing dripped out. Just go down to the link and you can grab the Ultimate Vision course. And like Kim said, there's a $100 off coupon for you. And that is it. And we'll see you for part 2 of our Ultimate Vision series next week. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, if you've ever thought about coming to hang out with Kim and I on one of our next Rob and Kim Italia events and you want to learn more, just click the Rob and Kim Italia link in the show notes and add your name and email and we'll send you all the details as soon as they're available. We are obsessed with this country and how it affects you, and we want to share that magic of culture, food, wine, art, architecture, and some secret magic moments that we've cooked up with you. So be sure to add your name because these events sell out quickly.